Donna, roll call, please.
Mayor Brusky.
Here.
Member Bolter.
Here.
Member Burns.
Here. Here.
Member Neary.
Here.
Member Baker.
Here.
Member Haas.
Here.
Member Lynn.
Here.
City Administrator Gibson.
Here.
City Attorney Ed.
Here. All rise for prayer and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to turn this over to Michael.
All right, so we've got a little bit of a change of plans tonight. Childress and Cunningham was supposed to be first on the presentation order. No call, no show. So we're going to move on with our second presenter of the night, which is GRW Inc. out of Lexington. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to set your stuff up and we'll get underway. Council, you should have in front of you all the approved list of questions that each firm will receive, and just a couple of scribble pages if you all want to take notes along the way.
Are we ready?
I guess we're about to get going here.
First of all, before I start, I guess I'll thank you for the heat in the room. Not freezing me out, you might be trying to heat me out, I don't know, it's working. Start off, thank you guys for allowing us to be here today. My name is Aaron Nickerson with GRW Architects, Engineers, Planners. For this project, I'm going to be the architect and the project manager going forward. So we gave you guys our qualifications already, kind of where we stand, the overall picture of GRW, our team. But what I want to do today is quickly go over that, get into a couple specific projects to show relevance to your all's project and go forward. So background, GRW is a employee-owned company. We've been around since 1964. We are a full discipline in-house engineering and architecture company. We have mechanical, electrical, plumbing, site civil, interior design, landscape architecture, basically everything that you need for a commercial municipal building. In addition to that, we also have a big place in stormwater and water management and engineering practices as well. Next slide. One of the things that we believe we bring to the city as far as an engineering architecture firm is a commitment to listening to you all as the owner. The most important thing is to develop and provide a solution that meets your needs, your goals. Could have done 100 of these, but it doesn't matter unless it's what's needed for your community to be able to move forward. Something that backs that up is about 70% of the work that we do is in Kentucky, and it's with repeat clients that we've worked with over the years. And then also, specifically on state, municipal, government jobs, funding is really important. Staying within the funding resources, providing a project that, you know, is aesthetically and physically pleasing, but also pleasing to the bottom line. So that being said, as a company, we look forward to working with you all, inspired by your process and delivering a project that meets your goals. So, GRW project team, like I said, Aaron Dickerson, registered architect, interior design, and a lead green associate. We have on our team QA/QC, another principal in the firm, Shane Lyle. The rest of the players there are in the package that you guys have already, but there's distinct importance of why they're on there. One of the members is Todd Cantrell. He's not here yet. He was planning on the 6:45, but he may sneak in. But the reason I was going to have him come today is he's well versed in AV. He's well versed in security electronics, access control. When it gets into even the division of public versus private, consumer space in the building, those factors really come into play. But this having a police station and police department as part of the facility as well really starts to make a difference to have staff that's engaged and used to that process on the team. The second member that I have on here that I thought was important to have today is Mike Asselon. He's a site civil engineer. He's currently working with you all on your streetscape project and sidewalk projects currently going on. But in addition to that, Mike has a vast experience of working with me on municipal jobs as well. So every team member that's up here has worked with me numerous times over the last 8 to 10 years on successful projects. Just to hit myself again, graduated from the University of Kentucky, registered in multiple states, including Kentucky, which is our home base. But what's really important about me and what I bring to you as a project manager is my project focus. The majority of my projects, especially in the recent past, have been municipal. I also do large-scale corrections and military work as well. They all kind of intermix, but municipal work is kind of the hotspot right now as far as the client base that I've been working with. What's important about that, it's going to be important to your project, is planning, master planning that work from the start, day one to the end, understanding what the goals are. That's something that's going to be familiar in all municipal jobs, especially city halls, as being a new driving factor for the development of the community, hopefully, and kind of a new start for city management. On top of that, you got program development, working with the police staff, working with the administrative staff, how those groups, those focuses work together and engage. Community engagement is going to be one of the most important things, especially for a municipal job. How are you going to deal with foot traffic coming in and out? How do you provide community space that can be used for you and the public as options to be able to make this building more than just the city and a police station, but actually a facility that people can come in and utilize for events. If you have a room such as this, maybe it's something that can be utilized from some other community event as well. Services development, that comes into play when you're getting into customer service as far as paying bills, taxes, coming in to meet with the clerk, coming in to meet with planning, zoning, wherever that might be. Developing how those people interact with the building, interact with the staff, and making that a productive relationship. And then lastly is quality. In the end, you want a quality job. Quality is not just expensive limestone and marble and shiny materials and everything. It's the quality of the space, the quality of the feeling that you're going to get, occupying it. You guys on a day-to-day working in and utilizing that space, but also the community coming in and getting that same feeling, getting that same experience. So lastly here, just to hit this home, we are a full discipline AE firm. All the players that were on that list before, I tried to show you the 6 most relevant current projects that we've all worked together on the team. So there's 85 to 90% of all these projects that I'm about to go through a little bit, we've all worked together. So we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, and I know how to make everybody come together and make it happen at the end of the day. And Mike can speak to that later if he needs to. So we go from the team, that team comes together, and we dive in with you day one. One of your important things was planning for this project and moving into design delivery. I had vast experience, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, on municipal jobs, going from the programming phase on. But in the programming phase, we meet with you all as the client, as the driver, to understand what the spaces are you need, what the quality of space is, the adjacencies, the functional analysis. We move on from there to schematic design development, starting to turn that from a concept, proof of concept, into an actual facility to occupy. Going on from there to construction documents and bidding, getting to the project. So the first of the 3 projects I'd like to show you as our relevant recent experience would be for the city of Nicholasville, Nicholasville City Hall. We've done a programming and feasibility study for them. At this point, it's for the City Hall. We've also done 2 fire stations and a renovation and move of the police station. So those are all completed at this time and waiting to move into the next phase. But what's important is it's a municipal project. It's a 2-story project, 32,000 square foot. The important principles of this to the client: community engagement. If you're going to put the resources and build this new facility, it needs to be enhancement of the public. It needs to be, a part of them as well as just you wanting a newer, nicer office space. Functional adjacency. It doesn't matter if it's about, A and B and how they work together. It's always about how they interact. So in this case, we had city function, we had a tax function, we had planning, zoning, engineering, but we also had larger community rooms, community spaces that were quasi-public, so that it could be utilized for public events, whether that be a club meeting or even if it was a wedding or something. But the idea there is just to show, on that one we had 12 different users in that building, 2 stories. We identified how they interact, where they go, the adjacencies. Does the clerk need to be right next to the mayor? Answer yes, most of the time. You guys work together on a day-to-day basis, so you need to be there. But if you're going to have city engineering, but you're also going to have city planning, you want to make sure those areas for efficiency and cost, you want those to be in the same kind of group, in the same area, so you can share a conference room, share utilities, and also force people to see each other and talk. It brings on efficiency. But what we do, this is just a good idea of what the programming phase looks like. We meet with you, we come together to get square footage ideas, what type of furnishings, what type of space each department needs to function properly. We develop that into a kind of a bubble diagram, getting closer to a floor plan, and then also looking at the site. As I said, you've got a public facade, you've got a private facade in this job. Staff, one of their concerns was the division between those two, so they could have access to the building without having to cross paths with the public on a day-to-day, but being able to have that shared space within the building for that interaction. But there's certain things, there's storage, there's record keeping that have to be in a private, secured space. So that's a question that always comes up and is a opportunity that needs to be resolved in every project. Just quickly, this is another example of that same kind of work. It's a program and study for Hardin County Water District, 32,000 square foot facility, moving from the existing campus to a new facility, adding vehicle storage, maintenance, outdoor storage, and doing basically a whole new campus plan. This is in the process of going into production to actually be developed into a project form. Project I really want to hit on, and this is my most current projects. These are all projects that I've done, but this is my most current project that relates from programming all the way into construction. So here, this is for the Frankfort Plant Board Administration Building. What this project was consolidating their services, administrative services, all into one facility rather than having multiple around town to increase that efficiency, deal with the functional adjacency. So you can see here on the plans, these are ideas. These are bubble diagrams of adjacencies of different departments, room data sheets we do. This is one of the floor plans. This is early on in the process. So you see this in programming and very early schematic design. This slide is showing the next step, which you're into schematic and design development. We use building information modeling on our projects, full discipline in that. What it allows us to do is show the client what the building could look like, different materials, different volumes. It helps you see it, it helps to sell the process and the project moving forward. But going into that, into site plan, developing that, and then showing more of a finished rendering of what it's going to be going forward. And then these are finished images of that project. So you have customer entrance. This is on the public side. You have staff entrance over here, which is on the private side, on the lower side. We have larger vestibules, lobby spaces for staff and for visitors. But what's important about this is whether it's police, whether it's administration, whatever it is, these spaces exist. Here's a community space. This is two-tier. You're only seeing half of it, but it has foldable partition to make the use of that space more flexible for different scale, smaller meetings, larger meetings, for your regular recorded meetings that you have to have. We did a full-blown AV system in here for recording, for redistribution of meeting minutes, AV systems, so on. Quickly on this project, this is the telecommunications building. The importance of this, just to show, is that same team did this project at the same time as that administration building. So just wanted to emphasize the ability and the staffing level that we have to be able to complete the jobs and perform. This is another job we did. It's a Justice Center for Harlan County. This was a CM job, and I wanted to show you this because it's more of a project urban infill. We worked with the client to develop and find the proper site. We worked with them to develop some community space, public space, as far as to go along with the project, not just to be a judicial center. And then this is the second to last page. It's just a list of projects that I've been a part of, or even managed. Frankfort job, Marshall job, Nicholasville, Northern Kentucky, Ohio National Guard. The majority of those I've either been an architect or a primary player on. But the primary reason for this is we don't have just one style. I'm not here to sell you on a curved building, a bubble building, a square. I'm here to listen to you guys, help bring your vision forward aesthetically and functionally, team up with these folks. Other guy showed up when I didn't turn around. Work with these folks and make that something that's functional, that works for you, and delivers on what you're doing for yourself and for the community. This is supposed to be my end, but I do want to. This is Ty Cantrell. This is the electrical engineer that I was speaking of earlier, but he's well versed in cameras, communications, AV systems, access control, That's the end of our presentation. And, I guess we'll come back for questions later, or
No,
fix
no.
anything right now.
Yeah, we'll go into it right now. I appreciate the.
Okay.
So, first one we've got is, what would be your projected timeline for the 3 services that we would anticipate in design, bidding, and construction?
So you want total timelines for design? Let's say if next week for design.
So we would be assuming starting the meeting with you on that.
Yeah, so if we're, and you guys got to go through the procurement process and everything else, but taking out consideration of how long we need to add meetings, and how long you guys need for internal reviews between different phases, that the programming phase, I'd like to see around 4 weeks or so to really narrow that in. Schematic, depending on where we get with that, how far we go, it would be a minimum of 2 weeks. Design development, have a minimum of 4 weeks there, but 4 to 6 weeks depending on the review schedule, and then 8 weeks for construction documents. So looking at probably 3.5 months for design, plus or minus based on where we need to go. Project has to wait on something where we're at. As far as bidding, it's usually up to you guys, but I know that there's a minimum of 3 weeks of having it out in paper for bidders to be able to see it and respond. We'd have our pre-bid meeting and all that. So that's usually, just to say, it's usually 4 weeks, to get that done and everybody feel comfortable in that. And then you guys usually have a couple weeks to at least a month, depending on where that falls and when you can execute that to select that team member. So just purely a bidding standpoint, I'd want to give that a month. From that bidding to selection, chances are that's probably 2 months. When we go into construction, it's kind of a loaded question. It depends on where we get, what the building type, what the type of project it is, and when we get there for getting out of the ground and what season that is. But if we're starting pretty soon here, we'll be in the right season to get out of the ground, not miss that. So I'd say on a 12 to 15,000 square foot building, you guys know the site pretty well already. Once we dig into seeing the geotech and any existing surveys, things like that, we'll know right off the bat if we got any pickups in the road there. But I would say a building like this, you could foresee completing in 12 to 14 months. Sorry if it sounded like I was trying to avoid the question there, but I want to make sure you understood where I was coming from, at least as far as
Keeping those kind of 3 criteria: design, bidding, and construction and management. In previous projects of this size, what has been your average cost of those services as a percentage of total project cost?
as far as our fee. I guess let me ask the question, do you guys foresee, you didn't say in your proposal, but do you foresee going after LEED or any specific sustainability requirements?
Yeah, we would look at
If you're going after LEED, typically, and this is going to be something for any design firm, it's typically a percentage value that gets added to the project based on documentation from design through the construction phase. That's usually 3/4 to 1% of the design fee. Design fee for a project of this scale, if you're including sustainability, which means we're probably going to have some life cycle costs, we're going to have additional levels of review and documentation that need to be had, we're probably at about 5.5% for a project this size. And if we talked about it in 10 minutes, we said, great, 5.5%, we're going to require this, this, and this that are way out of the blue. But in that 5.5%, typically programming is a separate phase. For a project like this, it's kind of integral into the schematic design as well. So that's just lumped into that 5.5% Typically, programming would be an additional fee as well in most standard architectural agreements, but like 5.5% covers what I anticipate.
For the design?
Yeah.
What about any sort of project management?
So if you're just talking about traditional design bid build, that 5.5% would include design bidding and CA work for us.
What are you seeing as the typical cost per square foot on projects, similar projects of this size and scope right now?
Again, somewhat of a loaded question, but it depends. If you're looking at, a traditional masonry building, not a lot of extra ornamentation, a lot of columns and things like that. For a municipal job, you no longer are having to meet the wage scales, but it really hasn't changed the prices that much from what I've seen, even though that was the hope. To be comfortable with it, I would tell you to expect $275 to $300 a square foot. Now, if you guys come back and you want high-end finishes, you want a parking garage basement, you want a green roof, the basement probably adding another $15 to $20 a square foot onto that. Higher design stuff, you could easily get into the mid-threes. But a traditional job that would be expected for something like this, I think you'd be comfortable in that 275 to 300 range.
What is your average percentage of change orders on similar projects?
Well, I'll speak to the projects I just stated up there. As a company, the whole picture, we usually put in our presentations when we got a bigger, more elaborate presentation. We like to tell you everything we could ever think of. We're typically 5% less is what we've had historically. Now, this $16 million Frankfort job, it finished $300,000 less than the original bid price. Telecommunications job, we got it down $600,000 less.
And that was based on the change order?
That was based on working with the owner, working with the contractor, based on circumstances to either a change in scope based on the department changing for some reason, having different needs, or we need to get more furniture to be able to meet our furniture package. We needed to change some of the finishes. So we work with them, try to determine, where best the money should be spent. Usually that's in areas where there's community engagement or shared rooms like this. But those two projects have been less than bid cost. The Harlan County project, I think that came in right on bid. I don't think there was any positive change orders to that. Trying to think about the projects I'll show you. The first two I showed you were programming and planning projects moving into execution to go forward with a building if they decide to go forward. So those ones were what the cost was from the design standpoint. What we traditionally try to do during the design process and construction process, if things come up, obviously if it's something that we missed or is different, or they had a different idea of what it was, we have no issue, as long as it's a relative concern to work to remedy that and find a way to come back with those funds. But also on my projects, I haven't had that problem yet. Sorry, look at me laughing. I haven't had that enough. Maybe I haven't done it long enough, but I have a lot of projects completed, either being a design lead or being the project architect on. And I've done $180 million prisons. I've done $300,000 storage sheds. So I got pretty good pretty good range of experience, different kinds of projects, different kind of clients, and I think that's set me up to be able to be positive moving forward with the client and provide a good solution.
I guess that kind of gets us into the next question of what's the average percentage of overrun on the budget? Based on what you're saying, it sounds like that's not really happening too much for you.
I mean, to be 100% honest, a good example would be that Frankfort job. And one thing that we do during design, every phase we update costs. So programming, we told you, is a $13 million building. Schematic and design development, we get into that. You guys say we want marble floors and we want glass stairways. That project goes up to $14.5 million. When you go to construction documents, you get a bunch of asks for additional things, partition more space, change some things, and the scope increases only if it's something that you guys are accepting of. And along that way, I would like to think that I speak up and tell you that it's a great idea, I love glass, let's do it, but does that work with you? Does it work with your budget? Is it going to work with these folks? So I said that project as an example just because the client had needs that changed going from design development into construction documents. And we went from a $14.8 million project to a $14.6 million project because of the things that changed based on their work environment and what they wanted to do. They added security level, but that project crept up right at the end, being a bigger budget, right at the construction document phase. If you weren't one of you on the board that's there day to day and knows what's going on and the reasons why that's doing it, you can perceive scope creep there or being off on your estimates. So I think we're pretty good with our estimating. We're generally pretty close with any project, and any architects can do this. You'd always have a 10% contingency on design estimates. There's always something going one way or another way. The market can go down, go up, minor fluctuations, but that's something we control pretty well.
How would you incorporate the memorial and monuments as well as other green spaces in the design of the building and doing so?
Well, I kind of hinted at a minute ago about underground parking garage. That was partially on purpose and partially just to get the thought out there, but your big issue is going to be access to parking to the building. How you do that is going to affect the amount of green space we have. We're looking at a 12 to 13 or so thousand square foot building on a 30,000 square foot lot. How you fit all those things becomes a challenge. And I think it becomes more of a public courtyard and public presence where those monuments go than it is necessarily the green space. Now, to get the green space in the place that you need it for, to have events for parades down there, or whatever that might be, to be a public kind of conclusion to those. I think there's opportunity to stack the building on one end or the other end of the site and being able to take advantage of keeping that green space, so going vertical with the building. That sounds like the easy answer, but the realistic issue with that is that makes the complexities of how the community, how the administration, and how the police department then work together. The police department's going to want that first floor on grade because they're going to want to be able to get in and out of the building. They want to go park it next to the building. They're not going to want to go up to that second floor. And they have to, depending on who makes that decision. But every decision you make has a consequence to something else. So, my easy answer that has consequences is stacking the building and saving green space as much, starting to do some on-street parking for public access, and maybe coming off that back alley for some staff and police parking and access to the building.
We've always assumed this is a two-story building. What if it were a three-story building? What does What does adding another story to that building do to the cost factor?
I think you would be best suited to go down than up.
Okay.
You know, when you had your police department, you had your city staff, you're going to have areas for the clerk where they need to save certain documents in their designated area. Police is going to have designated areas where they have to have secure storage or open storage, whatever those areas might be, depending on how you guys operate. But I think you could add that basement to the space, assuming that the geotech and the soils can accommodate such a thing. But I would imagine that they probably can based off the adjacent facilities. My concern about going to 3 stories is your perimeter of the building is getting so small to get that tall that you're starting to lose the ability to have a kind of a communal feel or an open space for community engagement in the building. When you get into a footprint that size, a room even this size is going to be hard to accommodate effectively into a building that's 4,000 square foot or less per floor. That's not to say it can't happen, but I think you'd be more effective going down than really going up. And it serves the the adjacent facilities better as well too. You got the one main facility right next door with the taller masonry building. The rest of the building is already 1 story or 2 story in the adjacent properties there. So you guys want to be part of the community. You don't want to be watching over everybody else and bringing that presence. That would be my just starting opinion on where to go with that.
How will you incorporate new technology and energy-saving products while keeping the project within?
Well, that's a good question. One thing that we've done a lot of research on, and easy, especially for building getting into that size, is the payback on things like LED fixtures, doing low-flow water fixtures, things like that are kind of no-brainers that costs are down far enough that it doesn't make sense not to do those things. And that really helps out on the energy side for one. As far as the biggest contributor is going to be your mechanical systems on building and how that gets affected. The easy first answer is let's go geothermal. And, what we'll need to do, if we want to go that route, and I think that's something that we recommend, because from a cost standpoint, you're not going to be that far off the typical boiler chiller solution for your project going to geothermal. It'll be more, but it's going to, if your soils are correct and you can get the right borings and get the right value out of it, it's going to pay itself back. But we usually try to look at 18, 20 years with most clients and try to get that back. Now, a commercial project, now a municipal project, you guys are going to be around a lot longer than most. So that payback becomes what's effective for you all. But we're usually looking into that around 20-year time period. We've gone up to 30 years for some clients and it'll still be feasible for them. But we need to go forward, look at a test well. We need to have a test well done to determine the actual capacity of the earth in that area to see if you got to have 30 wells, 10 wells, if they're 150 feet deep, or if they're 250 feet deep, and that really determines if you can do that. But if you go that route, that can't work out. It's somewhat of a small investment to do that test well to get to that answer. But if you weren't going to go that route, we probably look at high efficiency boiler chillers, multiple zones throughout the building. That's going to come down to you all. Is it acceptable to have 3 offices with 1 thermostat, or does everybody need a thermostat? Or that starts to affect the costing of that. But we've been pretty successful with doing high efficiency units and zones with traditional systems when the budget isn't there. But, there's many options, but I think that the first one to look at would be geothermal as far as an energy standpoint.
With that, be included in your original with you know, high
We do the analysis of, you know, the testing that comes back to be able to tell you how many borings it's going to take, what the depths of those are, and give you kind of a life cycle cost between boiler chiller system, or a boiler chiller system and a geothermal system. Now, as far as the test wells, it's not something that's traditionally done by an NEA firm. You know, it could be negotiated into, and we can have it done. That's usually, I don't know what the market is exactly here, but the projects that I've done recently, it's been 10 to 12 grand by the end to do a test well and get the responses back to be something that we can use. But the analysis of that and getting that information back to you and presenting that to allow you guys to make an informed decision on what's right for you guys is something that would be included in our fee.
But I guess my question would be, you mentioned to be around $275 to $300 per square foot. Would that be with high efficiency, or would that be just kind of normal? Or does that high efficiency make that?
No, I think in
350?
that 300 range and below, if we're within a building that's within our means, which would probably be, you know, single wide masonry, maybe some, this is just if you're going traditional route, maybe some cast stone accents and things like that, you could get there at that price. If you're going to get into higher end finishes and do a lot of curved walls or glazing or things like that, you might be jumping up a little bit higher. Short answer is, yeah, you could do it in that range, but it's a trade-off with it.
Describe in detail your needs assessment process, including stakeholder input, which will help us ensure that the building design meets our current needs and provides flexibility for future use.
Yeah, so what we do, and I take this on, you know, as the leader of this with everything else, but what I'll do typically, and it depends on how advanced you guys are in the process. You know, some clients you get with them and they've been thinking about a new building and they have concepts, ideas, what they want. They figured this out for 10 years and they're just trying to get there. Some clients, they're just moving forward and they decided they need a new city building. They have no idea. They have nobody that's on staff or in the community that's been telling them what they want and what they need. But at a minimum, if you guys didn't have a jumping off point, I would want to get room criteria, space criteria information to you all to kind of get an idea of, from the clerks, what kind of space, what kind of equipment, what things you guys have as a need, from the mayor's office, from the police, how you all work, so that document can come back in. We can kind of absorb that. I can meet with these folks, kind of think it over, and then we come back to the table, have kind of a kickoff shred design with you all, go through what we've kind of analyzed from that, and start to turn that into functional adjacency bubble diagrams to get to that point where we can comfortably feel we're going from programming to schematic design, and you kind of know the direction, you know where you're going at that point. So we don't go programming, I push you into it, you say good, we go to the next phase, I start drawing the thing, and you want a circle and we have a square. So the idea is to really understand you, meet with you guys as much as possible to understand the process, understand your needs. Importantly as well, and I haven't said yet, is to understand your future goals and your expansion. If you want to build this thing, so it's going to accept 40, 50 years of you guys being there, if not more. And are you going to build an engineering department bigger, planning, zoning going to get larger? I would assume the answer is yes to most of that, based on the expected growth from new development and access to the community, and continuing on the growth from Newport to Bellevue down. So at some point you probably would grow in those areas.
How will your quality control processes limit change orders, ensure quality construction to bid specification, and help bring the total project to completion and the budget to bid?
Well, as I hinted to, I mean, I've worked on numerous scales and scope design, build, I've worked many projects with the military. And those three coming together from my management standpoint allows me to anticipate and see what might be coming down the road and what maybe some of the architectural staff may have overlooked, maybe what we may have not seen on the engineering side. But on top of that, I had Shane's name up there. Shane is the director of the architecture department for GRW. Him and myself are both principals with the firm. He will be a part of the process as well. Obviously, he wouldn't be the day-to-day guy. He's not going to come and be in your face all the time. That's my job to make me wear you out. But that's the way to get the answers. That's the way to understand you all and make sure that you're building this, my building at the same time to make it successful. But he looks over the drawings. At every phase we go through, we do periodic reviews. We also have 4 other architects in the architecture department that, depending on the type of project, can get involved as well if we need to. But it all depends on scale, scope, and where we're at with the project. But each one of these teams, the electrical department, we have 5 electrical engineers that work in the same building as me, not counting designers. How many civil? We got 4 civil engineers, and there's probably 12 folks, designers that are there working with them. We have multi-tiered staff, and the reason I brought up the military, when we submit those projects, we do QA/QC forms at every single phase that somebody independent of the actual design will review the documents, make comments, markups, and submit those to the owner so they can see what we've done internally to know that I didn't tell you we got QA/QC, and you don't find out until the building starts going up in the air.
So once the construction is underway, and tell me about your on-site visits.
Okay. Depends on the scope, kind of scale, and complexity of the job. Typically, minimum is going to be once a month. They have a project meeting, meet with the contractor, the owner. What we like to do on projects that are closer to home like this, or depending on where we go with it, the complexity is there. Try to be there twice a month. But at minimum, it's got to be at least that one, that one meeting that will be up here all day, meeting with you all, meeting with the contractor for progress meetings, walking the site. But we come up periodically as well, depending on if we're starting to go vertical that day. Our structural engineer will be up here for sure, with probably myself, or I've been up here the day before, so I said, you're going up there tomorrow to see this, because I don't want it to be wrong. I don't want to get yelled at. So if we show up on site, depending on the complexity, but a minimum is one, but most of the time it usually turns into 2 site visits, depending on where we're at.
With that in mind, how many typical balls in the air do you have at one time with your firm?
It depends, it kind of fluctuates. One of our slides that we usually have up on the big board of 100 slides for the half-hour presentation is, our, at least the design side of our firm's ability and our money that we have coming through as far as project scope. And we're typically the $50 to $60 million on the A side of projects going on at one time. Right now, we're probably down a little bit because I'm coming off this Frankfort job. I'm coming off both those Frankfort jobs. I'm coming off the planning of the Nicholasville job. So, my plate, I have a jail going on right now. But that's a project that has multiple players in it, and would probably get pushed to the side if this was to happen, and I would take this over and run with it like those other projects with my primary project. But make sure I'm answering your question. I typically depending on scope and scale, but I'll typically probably have 3 or 4 jobs going on at once. Now, when I have a bigger job, like this Frankfort job, admin building, that was 16 million, and the other was a 4.3 going on at the same time. Those were my 2 primary projects that I had going on at that time. I had some smaller commercial work that was smaller scale that didn't deserve, or not deserve, but didn't need the amount of effort and attention that would be a successful project. But I typically have at least 3 or 4 things going on at once. I think that's typical of most. If you, in our office, we have 5 architects. We typically have 15 to 20, if not more, projects going on. Those might be a Starbucks over here, and it may be a three-door warehouse building or whatever else. But we like to have 2 or 3 at least larger scale projects going on at the same time. But right now, I'm down to that one significant project, which is that jail. Otherwise, I'm ready to go on any of this, and these guys are ready to follow me wherever I go.
So, just so I was wondering, so you push somebody else's project to the side, where would Dave's priority fall in for your firm as far as, I mean, is it $4 million?
For me, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's why I just want to make sure, is it a $4 million project like the one we're discussing? Is that a top priority, or is that a low level?
No. If you guys, I have an 18
It's instinct.
yeah, so it didn't really bother me, but I'll keep it in. At the beginning of the slides, where it was my slide, every project that gets my name on it, I'm a project architect on, it becomes my project, it becomes an extension of me. So if this happens, anything happens, and it's under my watch, it's going to get my full attention. You can, I don't know if you talked to any of those references that are in there. I think they would follow that suit. But it would be number 1 on my plate. My push and my drive has been to work with clients like you. I think it's more of an engaging process. It's something that's going to be around longer, and it's just interesting. You got a lot of things going on. You got a lot of different players to keep happy and to provide a positive solution for you and the community. So I can tell you this would be number 1 for me. If I had a $200 million project, this would be it, because somebody else would be taking that. Because these projects will keep going. Those other projects come and go. So we need to keep you all, keep this market, as mine. Kind of like that's an answer.
Oh, that's a good answer. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And a final question, describe the style of building you see fitting into the site, keeping in mind the style of commercial buildings that are in close proximity.
I think it comes down to a little bit what you guys see for the site. My understanding, and from seeing the site, and understanding community reactions to things, what's happened historically to this site here, is that the hope is for it to be kind of a driver and to be kind of a new gateway to pulling people to downtown Dayton through the development area, but also being an access that starts to speak to the waterfront. So depending on if this is a standalone project by itself, or if there's concepts and ideas from you all for some future engagement or future facilities that are spread out somewhere else, that would kind of determine what it looks like, kind of make it a new identity for you all. But as a standalone project, and having it be that kind of gateway, I would think it's a kind of more traditional masonry structure. It probably has some contemporary touches to it, so maybe some glazing, on the community side. Some features that make the building feel a little bit more inviting, not so much big masonry city building that you're only coming in to talk to Virgil if he wants you to come in. So, I hate to say what I want it to look like, because in the end, I'll give you my opinions. I'm not here to push my style, to push curved glass, to push aluminum panels. You know, if it's a building that makes sense for economy-wise for one side of it to be a more cost-effective solution, and the public side to be more high-end solution to help with those factors and to get into the price lane that you guys are seeing, that's what needs to happen. But just going from the traditional standpoint, there are some buildings, there are some things in the neighborhood to speak to, but I think it's more of a building that's going to educate and drive the future development and growth of that area more than responding to what's there.
Thank you. At this time, council, have any questions you want to ask the judge? Any questions?
You had mentioned the option of moving the building to one end or the other, rather than right behind that center monument. What would be the complications of moving it onto this property line on the east end of the lot and having the parking now? This is not almost 10,000 square foot footprint. I know that's way too big, but to have the parking out in this area to the west. What would be the complications versus?
Well, I think the primary complications would be adjacency to the existing building there for one, so you're going to have standoff distances.
Right.
You're probably going to have access aisles depending on how they deliver and provide for the building. So that's one, to limit fire ratings and issues like that we have everywhere. But so we'd be minimum 15 to 20 feet away from that other building to limit the cost of that. But the bigger driving issue I see with that, and it may not be an issue for you all, but most of these facilities, especially when you're policing them, you're going to want to have some private access to private parking. It's not shared with the public, where you're going to have police vehicles or maybe more mayor's parking or something else. That being said, that the idea of coming off the alleyway and also for that parking, that could lend itself to having some underground parking access under the building, and green space for vehicular parking. That would come down to soils, that would come down to really where you're going to appropriate the funds and what makes the most sense. But this idea of green space is really important, which I think it is to the community, and maintaining the monuments, whether they're exactly where they are now or moving them for a more effective orientation. You want to maintain as much of that green space as possible. So my thought on that would be, that's going to leave you the most amount of green space, obviously, for one. It's going to limit the disturbance to the monuments. I think you'd still move the Veterans Monument to a better location. The direct answer on that really needs to be community development. Voice of the community plus you all determine how that works and what you're going after. But I think if you're doing that and you wanted to keep a main green space throughout here, I think you could start to develop parking over here.
Right.
And some of that's going to come down to your planning and zoning and what you're going to allow yourself to follow or not follow based on the regulations and the amount of parking you have to have. Because you guys have your staff that parks there. You have police that, you're going to be expecting growth. The community is going to want to come here as well. So if it's a successful project, they're going to want to come. So,
But that is doable in a municipal building such as
yeah,
this.
I think it's easily doable as any other solution on the site.
Okay.
But pushing everything off to one side, obviously, is going to give you the best opportunity to maintain as much green space as possible, unless you wanted to get into a really more of an exotic condition where you might do a green space or a green roof or something like that that is accessible, part of that actual monument, and may start to allow you to speak and see to the waterfront and see different areas, but that's a up in the air conversation for another day, but there's plenty of possibilities, and I don't see any more negative to that than any other orientation on this site. I think the memorial that's at the intersection is that probably the best location to be for visibility and for the importance of it. You go pushing that to the back side or behind a building or in a corner, you might as well move it to a park somewhere else. And I know before I said that, I know the answer to that is that's not happening. So, so I think with any project, there's elements and hierarchy to that. You got to start with that, where those are. Start to have the dialogue with the players that determine what changes, what things can be made, and then understand, exactly how the community uses that space. How do you plan for its growth in the future once business starts to make its way down there? Do you anticipate that being some kind of a market or some kind of a, in the parade route or whatever that might be? So, a lot of opportunities there. And tell an architect, I'll talk about grand ideas for a long time. We'll get there.
Anyone else like to address any questions? Jeff? Any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Jeff? Anything?
Yes, sir. Virgil,
Yes.
could I ask a question?
Go ahead.
It's about item number 10, and I'm curious, I'll ask it of council first. Keeping in mind the style of the commercial buildings are in close proximity, can anybody tell me what that is, or even list one building that's worthy of being referential to a new city building being designed in the 21st century? There's no consistency in the commercial buildings there,
No.
so there's no style there.
Right, so the intent of the question was how do you build something new that can still accentuate what we have? I mean, obviously, if you just look at that intersection there, you've got 4 commercial buildings that are all different, or 3 commercial buildings that are all different. So how do you build something there that will, fit in? And now, yeah, you can't build a new building old, but it's just meant to, how are you going to incorporate something into that last piece of the intersection that will work?
Okay, well then let me ask the same, how do you address that? We're 18 years into the 21st century. The elephant in that room is the Ramey building, which probably won't even be there in 10 or 15 years because it's been sitting there vacant, will cost a fortune to renovate. And I'm sure you get this from clients all the time. Make this fit in, make this contextual. In this case, there's no relevant context to my eye. And I just wonder how you deal with it and still placate, how you do a 21st century building and placate your client. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that's just what pops to mind when I see this question.
Plop down a curved glass building and
Yeah.
No. It's like I was saying a little bit earlier about the site. I was kind of pointing out that same idea. You look at more of the history of the context and not necessarily the immediate context. In that, you got a 1970s kind of modern glass storefront for the bakery now. You got a pretty nice masonry building that's been there for a while right next door, and then behind us we got a pretty nice church. And then you got residences right next to that. So you have a mix. So more than anything, the intent, at least from a design side, is to produce a building that speaks to history more than anything and where you guys want to get to. And from a material standpoint, to me, that becomes a masonry structure that has some density, some lasting appearance to it, but also starting to break into it with some more contemporary elements. And because those are the things you're going to start to see as the businesses develop, if they change their storefronts, elements that come into it. Those are the kind of things that are going to push their way into the business district. If it develops, you know, as we all hope, getting into the harbor area, that's what's going to start showing up down there. You're going to see metal panels, you're going to see glass, you're going to see what you're seeing everywhere when something new goes in now. But that's kind of the advantage of this site as well, though, because you're not stuck with trying to make a 3-story masonry building to look like it's 1884 again. You're taking that idea, you're taking the value and the concept of that, and you know, delving in from that and pushing it in to meet the goals of the future. And I think that's probably more of a contemporary masonry building. You want something that's going to stand the test of time, so that masonry is going to be in there. You don't want to do something that's really great right now, and we really love it, and we think it's going to drive the community. But in 15, 20 years, it's going to be, you're going to be known as the eyesore of the community, or Dayton is that weird yellow building over there. It wants to be something that's, you know, sets an example, I think, as moving forward in the district, in the development core downtown.
Good answer.
Eric, thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
We're going to take a 10-minute break to give the other presenters